Mr. Mojo, when can
Happy
we start the
Friday,
call?
I've been recording the last minute or so, so you can say hello everyone whenever you wish.
Hello, everyone, whenever you wish. I'm Superphiz, and I'm here with Tap, Colfax, Mr. Mojo, Defi Dude, and Frankie, and
What up,
a
what up?
lot of people from the community. Hey, everyone.
Hello everybody.
We are rocking out on POAP Community Call number 5 today. It is February 11th, 2022 at 1 p.m. Eastern time. It's Easter time. So, hey,
Hey.
I want to start today's call by letting everyone know that we announced last week that we would be changing the timing of this call. And so I'll say this again near the end, but just to give the setup, let me go find my notes to make sure I say this correctly. Okay, today's call, Friday, February 11th, on the old schedule. The next call will be Wednesday, February 16th at 7 p.m. Eastern. And the thing that some people know is that's the middle of EthDenver. So we're going to kind of make that a short-staffed call. There probably won't even be a POAP for it. But I'll be here, and anyone else that makes it, you're welcome to join me on Wednesday, February 16th at 7 p.m. Eastern. And then the following Wednesday, February 23rd at 7 p.m. Eastern, we will make that our new informal long-term time. There will be a POAP for that call. So just know that going forward that the call time will change to Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. We will kind of put that out and change the event stuff, but I just didn't want to leave anyone behind. That would make us all really sad. So that is what I know.
So I'm looking
Let's
forward
start
to
with
it.
a Slido today. Do what?
Let's do it.
Slido, first question. Do we have to go to the Discord to claim a POAP in Twitter Spaces? I've only done this once. Has anybody else done it?
Claim a POAP in Twitter Spaces?
Yeah.
I tried, and I got lost. So who's ever asked that question, I don't know how to do it.
It looks like we have an expert in the house.
Hey guys, how's it going today?
Hey, welcome Zero G's. Glad to have you.
What up?
Yeah, it's a great question on the Twitter Spaces part. It for DGen, the claiming, the event coordinator has to initiate it in Discord, but the users just click the link that the event coordinator puts out through a tweet, and that will have you link your Twitter account to DGen. It has that long list of permissions, but the only reason we have that is because Twitter's API requires all of those just to get to that last one where it's allowing the DGen account to send you a DM on Twitter. And so you should receive a DM directly from DGen on Twitter with the claim link.
The flow, as I recall, click the link in Twitter, go to a third-party website where you authorize it, and then get the DM back through Twitter. That's what you just said?
Yeah. When you authorize it, it'll post a tweet on your behalf, and that's the only time it'll do that. And it gives a link to the Twitter Spaces that you're attending, and then at the end you'll get your DM directly from DGen.
Is that like a one-time authorization, or is it good for like all future calls?
It's a one-time authorization, like once per event. The event coordinator has a little bit more linking. When you're creating the event, you have to link your Twitter account through Discord. But the end users just click the event attendees. They just click the link that the event creator puts out. And then it will register you just for that one call.
Okay, so my attention is a little torn here. I just want to clarify that. So for every Twitter Spaces you attend where you could claim a POAP, you'll need to click through and click on the approval site before you'll get it. Is that right?
Exactly. And that approval site is it's just a landing over on the DGen Bankless DAO page.
Yeah.
Hey,
okay,
one
great.
other thing to because like I tried to do this week. I was on a Twitter Space, and I highly suggest probably doing it on a desktop.
Yeah.
Because I tried on my
Yeah.
mobile and I was just like I was like, okay, I give up.
Oh, no.
And not to criticize, right? But it's just something to keep in mind if you are in Twitter Space and you want to claim a POAP with DGen bot, it might be a little bit easier if you're on a desktop.
Another, just at POAP, another thing we recommend that might be simpler for just the Twitter Spaces use case is using secret word at a random time during your call. It's a really effective method to accomplish POAP distribution. It also can keep away engagement farming, especially if you're only offering them every other call or sporadically.
My
Oh,
frustration
that's
with
good.
that
Good
is
advice.
my frustration with that is that you end up with the aggressive people who will spam the chat continuously for win POAP, and I'm like, just relax. I like these passive methods better because they are they're programmatic rather than relying on people to have to interact. I don't know if that's
And
if
it does have the benefit through DGen where it only allows a user to claim one, whereas if you're using the secret word, people could get all farmerish on you and claim as many as they felt like.
I'm going to hit the next question here. Many POAP creators complain how hard it is to create a POAP for their community members and the POAP number limitations. What happens? How do we fix this? That's actually, I think, a great question for Frankie.
Sorry, you came in a little jumbled. Can you say that again?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Is my audio bad?
No, it was my Mac.
Many POAP creators complain that it's hard to create a POAP for their community and the POAP number limitations. How do we fix this?
So you do it by, I would say, by creating a number of drops by requesting smaller amounts, executing a good drop, and then as the creation team gets more familiar with you and your community, and especially how you've executed drops in the past, we'd be happy to approve you for more codes, just as long as the code size actually represents your community size, and it's going to go to people that are participating in your events and actually are part of your community.
That's great. And one of the biggest points of this call is to improve best practices with distribution. And so I'd like to play a little game where we all kind of share our own best practice. And so my best practice would probably be automated distribution with something like DGen. Anybody else want to share a best practice?
I'll pop in here. Hey everybody, Tango from Sushi and Gate now. We've been through quite an experience with distribution methods as far as POAPs go. And at the end, we've ended up using the DGen bot and have been I've been pretty happy with it, especially with running Discord scripts right within Discord and being able to issue it out that way, and being able to have that timer set up, people that are actually in there and you're in that call and whatnot. So really big fan of DGen bot for that, and I really liked how they brought in the claiming and the DM ability. Personally, I was like, and I think we've run into this now with the DMs being a bit of a problem, but the ability to claim, that way we can put you can also put up a CSV file if you were to have if you wanted to create an event or something like that, where if you have a list of people people. So it does give that flexibility. And the way that it's set up there too within that channel, what they'd had going on there. And shout out to Zero G's and Nonsense. They've been kind of my key point contacts there. Really like what that is. I never got a chance to use the Twitter part, so that's sweet. I would like to just try that out. But so far, I think you guys can nail that down with Discord and Twitter. To me, that's like a really, really sweet way of doing it.
It's a lot, Tangle. That's a good. It's funny that I didn't know this when we started, but the DGen bot is really ending up being an integral part of successful POAP distribution, and so I'm happy to have it.
Yeah,
Love hearing that.
Oh, you guys, it's been amazing. And like you talk about, I know we just mentioned the the use of like the secret code, and I mean that's part of it. But like there's communities right now that are existing that are just like farming POAPs, and I mean I'm all for that, but when we're running like certain amount of codes or something like that, like people that are actually participating, they run out. So I mean, there's groups that are like sharing codes with each other. They're all, if something comes along, they dump it in there, and everybody's after it. So, I'm personally, I want to see the people who are participating in these events as people that were like involved in these things. I want to see them get those POAPs, and it's a little bit strange when you have like a big event and you throw a claim out like that. That's just something I'm spooked of. But if there was a way to set it up too, where you could just have, like a whitelist for people that showed up, or somehow that could maybe be another blend of doing it.
Oh, Tangle. On that note, I love delivery. Like I use delivery a lot. Like so, DGen bot is great. Delivery with a form where you're asking for their wallet address, I've found allows you to audit like farmers even. And I come from a cybersecurity background, so like basic data analysis, right? You can, with some good questions, you can see if people are actually listening into a call as well. But the delivery mechanism, like we just did a POAP drop to all existing CryptHogs holders for our project, and we just grabbed all the wallet addresses on chain, so we actually know they're holders, right? Which has been
Are
pretty
you
cool.
able to get like data from? Are you able to pull like chain data too from it? Like, I wonder if that's something that we could look at. Does this account have a certain amount of things, right? If it could check and say, does this wallet have, a certain amount of tokens, or does it have like a certain, whatever, right? And maybe that's like, I know with Collabland, we're pulling that kind of information, but I'm wondering if there's a way to do it there too.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing it, if you're doing it automated, that would require some work, right? But for us, like, it depends on what you're trying to drop. But you could be like, oh, hey, we're gonna collect addresses up front. We're gonna validate they actually have sushi, right?
We do have a new feature coming soon, TM, where it'll be able to like users are, because right now the DMs had to be disabled because of Discord quarantining, but you can still send a DM to DGen soon, and it'll be able to link. It's not going to have access to your wallet, but being able to put your wallet on the list, and then it'll be able to basically mint the POAP directly to your wallet. But it doesn't have to like keep private keys or anything like that. It's just, external access, public access.
It's cool.
So hey, it's Prof Order. I was doing the delivery yesterday for our POAPathon Live, and I will tell you that the process could be a little better animated or updated.
I didn't say it was easy.
Like automated, yeah, it's not easy. Because you still have to, like, there's always somebody who, I don't know, put an extra space in or did something when they typed in their information. So the way we've been doing it is with a form. And so there's always like an error message that you then have to, investigate and try and figure out. It doesn't like just pull the problems out. So it's a great method, except it's time consuming. So that's just something for anyone who has not tried that yet. Just be aware that it's going to take you a little bit of time. And for anyone from POAP who's here, if you guys could check out my thing that I just put in Discourse to try and get that fully pushed through, that'd be awesome. Thanks.
Will do.
It's funny that you say that, Prof. Order, because I did what is it? Delivery, POAP.delivery one time, and I was trying to root out duplicates, so I changed everything to string to uppercase, and it changed all of the 0x's to capital X's, and it wouldn't import, and I spent like 2 hours like, why won't it work?
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's
if
always
it had
trying
string
to
to
figure out
lowered it,
that,
it would have
like,
been great.
It'll tell you an error message, and you're like, that's right. Why is it coming up wrong? And it just makes you a little crazy. But
Yeah.
Thanks for the
you know.
feedback.
Or
It's
seen
something
errors.
that we can definitely improve on, and really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, and thank you to you guys for keeping the channels open to help us out. So we appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Frankie, on that note, like the majority of the issues, because I teach a lot of people how to use it, is parsing errors, right? So like rather than just telling you, hey, it doesn't work as a parsing errors, it'd be awesome if it just like automatically remove them or told you which ones need to be removed. If that's helpful. But I was also going to mention like EthDenver is this week, and there's going to be a lot of POAPs. And POAP distribution isn't limited to the digital world. It's also started, I think, predominantly for in real life experiences. Is that right, Superphiz?
Yeah, it was 2018. It was a hackathon at EthDenver. That was the genesis. And when I started connecting with Patricio, I didn't really realize that he was ready to shift it to the virtual world, and he kind of introduced me to that. And that's eStaker was one of the first communities to begin virtual distribution. It was a whole lot of fun. What do you? Tell me it's Dr. Pepper or Coke. What are you slurping?
It's Dr. Pepper. How did you?
Dr. Pepper has a unique slurp signature. It has a very unique slurp signature.
Sorry, I shouldn't be eating and slurping on a call, but hey, I was going to mention on your note though, POAP distribution in real life. I'm going through that like genesis moment of figuring this out, and initially it's like, well, give people a link. Well, like they don't know what to do with the link, right? So it's like, oh, you need a QR code. So like there's some free tools online like QR code generator. And so I've done that, but it's like, oh, for EthDenver, we have to do 2,500 unique POAPs for these packs we made. And so then we found there's this awesome person, Crypto Gibby. We call them Print Gibby in our community, but InDesign is a tool. It's a design print tool that allows you to like script out QR code generation for printing when you need to do high volumes for that. So like, just want to emphasize, like if you're doing it in real life events, like combination of you can do it manually via QR generation online. You also can do it using InDesign automatically. And then there's some other cool tools. I think Wartholler mentioned last week a new device that's NFC oriented. And then
Sam is working on that, and he's here. I wondered if he would pop in. I don't know how available he is, but Sam, aka Grey Wizard, aka Gibson Style, aka I just doxed him. He's a part of that NFT distribution effort, and I was really excited to hear about it. He may not be available.
They're raising their hand if you bring them up. And the other thing I'd say on that note is there's another product that I'm bringing to EthDenver called Nifty Days, which is it randomly generates a new QR code when one is redeemed, I think, or something of that nature. I haven't used it yet. It arrives on Monday, but we used that during the holiday special that we hosted, and people thought it was awesome. We actually used a physical item digitally, so it was on Zoom.
Awesome.
The QR code being generated.
So hey, Tap, could you just very quickly put the earlier resources you mentioned in the chat? That would be great. I think you mentioned InDesign, and there was something else. I can't remember. Thanks.
If I may jump in just a second, my name is Hanny. I recently joined POAP to build a resource directory. So any of these helpful resources that you guys have to use with certain tools, I would love if you guys could send me a DM. You can find me in the POAP server. And just let me know the link to the resource and what tool you use it with. So for example, these QR code generation services or whatever you mentioned. Things like that would be uh, greatly helpful to link along with the certain tools that POAP has to offer to help distributors and collectors.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Hanny. I'm really excited for you to be on the POAP team. It's another Rocket Pool POAP crossover.
Hey,
Yeah,
one
they're
thing, just
slowly stealing us one by one.
one thing I want, just on the topic of tools and like other, I guess like other tools within like communities and whatnot. What about like, and maybe I've missed this because I haven't looked too deep into it, but like as far as when it comes to like developers and things like that, like what about, or even just like active community people, is there things like that we could tie together with POAP into like GitHub? And like for like on the developer side, like if they were to push X amount of repos or something, or push things like to their
It
repos.
turns out, I love this question, Tangle. We have somebody here who
Hey,
is actually
Colfax!
developing a product. Yes, Colfax is developing a product to link GitHub and POAP.
Absolutely amazing. And then just I'd love to hear about that. And then if anybody or where we're at with like forums and things like this, like I know I thought about this with like discourse over at Sushi, but looking at like other protocols too, like, or no, I should say protocol, but like other platforms like Commonwealth, where I've seen that they're like flaring as well. Commonwealth is a real kind of interest for me, just with I guess like what it looks like and how powerful it is. But anyway, I would just love to hear about thoughts around all of that.
Amazing. Yeah, something that I've spent a lot of time thinking about, and with what we're building with what we're calling Git POAP, is at its beginning an integration of POAP issuance into GitHub. And what we really want to do is we want to sort of bring these off-chain contributions on-chain through POAPs. And as you're talking about, there's all these other types of contribution platforms. So we have sort of a higher level goal of eventually bringing any sorts of contribution or professional accomplishment on chain through POAPs. So right now, the way things are going to look is actually we're going to be issuing POAPs for contributions to a bunch of different open source projects, hopefully in about a month actually. And we're going to expand out from there. But I'd love to hear more about your use cases and sort of what tools that you use to collaborate with different communities and things.
Yeah, I'm not 100% on like what tools would be needed or like what's all being used, but I'm just like thinking a little bit here in towards like the layer 0 community, and like that's going to be a little more like developer focused as compared to like the Sushi, where it's like more of like the deck swappers, that kind of like a little more of a active community on chain per se. So yeah, when it comes to like development there, like I want to start moving in towards like and just people who are actively active in like community discussion and things like this, because developers may be on the outside of that, but they're actually doing they're still just as much involved, if it's just in a different capacity. So how do we bring them in, and how do we like kind of attract them? And of course GitHub is like that's where things are happening. That's where the code lives. So I don't like, I'd have to speak with some devs here to find out like what that flow looks like. You're probably better suited for that than myself, but it's just some way of like whatever activities are happening there, if we can kind of gauge those or give those weight or something, and then seeing X amount of activities happening, it allows unlocks a POAP or something. I'm not sure what that looks like, but I'm happy to hear that you like where the vision is of what you're trying to do here with this. But
you're hitting on something that we're thinking about. It's really challenging. It's like, how do you recognize the contributions, and like how do you sort of classify them? And the reason why we're starting with code contributions on GitHub is it's very easily quantifiable and verifiable, but we want to sort of have a good way to recognize and reward more qualitative contributions that aren't as like sort of tangible in that nature. And so it's very hard to do though. So yeah, I'm excited to see sort of how we can evolve and sort of build tools that allow people to recognize these contributions in their communities.
Colfax.
Yeah, and happy to hear you use the word. Oh, go ahead. Yeah,
Love-
just gonna say, happy to hear you speak qualitative versus quantitative. So nice.
Exactly.
I was just gonna say, I would love to see a Git integration for POAPs with completion of bug bounties and bug bounty platforms like HackerOne. I think that would be a really,
Yeah.
really with any bug bounty platform, you'd have a really good opportunity for partnerships. I'd love to see those POAPs in that use case.
That would be really cool. Yeah, I'm looking at HackerOne right now. I haven't used it, but this would be a great integration for sure.
I hit me up later. I'm friends with the CEO.
Perfect. Tap, you're amazing.
I go Tap.
We can all go to Wendy's later.
Drink Dr. Pepper.
I was gonna also ask about like things like Commonwealth or discourse. As far as like for forum, Commonwealth, looking like it's it's kind of like the next level and more designed for crypto communities, Web3 communities, DAOs and things. So yeah, just curious if anybody's got is working on that or where we're at with it. I honestly haven't looked too deep into what's current stuff with forums and POAPs, but yeah, anybody?
Yeah, we've been looking at Discourse to do an integration there, but right now, to be honest, like we're pretty focused on our launch just with GitHub, but sort of like on the 6-month mark, like looking at some of these other integrations. I'd be curious if anybody else knows of anybody that's working on integrating with some of these other tools. But if not, definitely I'd love to keep the conversation going. And we're going to be looking for beta testers that are actually using these platforms. So like POAP and possibly like Sushi that can help us sort of test and be guinea pigs in our process of integrating.
100%. Yeah, you just please. DMs are open.
Amazing.
Yeah, let's follow up on that further, and anybody out there as well that's got ideas around implementing into forums, whether it be Discourse or Commonwealth or Clarium, yeah, please hit me up. That's something that needs to happen, because like that's where the communities, where change happens in the community, right? So we want to be able to reward that too.
Totally agree.
I think that's a real
Discourse has badges and things right now, but of course that's just like within the platform itself. So it's like it's starting to do that. Like it has, it has that kind of, it's pushing towards it. But just how do we make that POAPs instead of just badges that are only reflective for Discourse? Yeah.
Tangle, something on my mind, because like there is this aspect of like POAP issuer fatigue, which is like, man, do I have to have a POAP for every call, every Twitter space, every activity, right? And at the end of the day, like me personally, it's like I just want POAPs to end up in the hands of real people and participants, right, that are making meaningful contribution. There's other externalities of benefits on the marketing side to the POAPs, everybody getting them, right? But I think that's one thing, like you really have to think that out strategy wise, because like those expectations start to build, and now it's like, well, how do we now, we need to create all these POAPs, right, and manage. It kind of, I think over time as the tooling builds out, it will get better. But I think it's something for newer people, coming into POAP to really think and process about. And similar to what Frankie talked about earlier, which is like, yeah, you have to kind of prove yourself on the issuance side. So don't overpromise your community POAPs for everything.
You brought up a concept that I love this concept of issuer fatigue, because that's something that I haven't really
been brutal.
my finger on. Yeah, like I know that people love POAPs. I love POAPs, but there's like this stress that comes along with getting the art, getting it approved, getting them distributed. Those are probably the 3 pinch points. And it kind of becomes a little daunting. And like, as much as I love POAP, every time I think about it, I'm like, there are those 3 pinch points that I'm going to have to jump over in order to contribute to the community. So I love that by acknowledging issuer fatigue, we can begin to kind of whittle those down. Like POAPathon has been a wild resource for removing the stress of getting the art created. And then,
Yep.
if we can work on, and honestly, the curation committee has been really great for getting projects reviewed and codes issued. And then DGen has been really great for getting distributions out. And those are 3 really big pieces of the puzzle that over the long term will make things even easier. So on one hand, it's stressful. On the other hand, as I think about it, I do see a lot of progress that's occurred there.
Yeah. And on that note, like, go ahead, Tap. All right, I'll jump in. On that note, on like issuer fatigue, it's something that we're thinking about a lot when we're designing Git POAP, is like, we want the tools to recognize contributions, reward them with POAPs, to be fully integrated within your existing flow already. Like, we don't want to create a bunch more work for people to have to go through. And so it's very difficult because there's a lot of different like steps that need to happen. But our goal is to integrate the POAP issuance seamlessly into something you're already doing and not adding a whole bunch of extra steps on top of it. And so that's definitely, that's it. It's exciting to see all these different tools and like POAPathon coming up and DGenBot that are making it easier and easier, that just sort of go right into the flow of something that you're already doing.
That's great. Yeah, and I think like in our community, we've pushed issuance across the community. So like Prof Order's doing it. Prof Order just was like, hey, I'm going to issue POAPs for POAPathon Live. And I'm like, okay, great. And then, new people learn how to do issuance.
And then
in
Taps on
different
like
ways.
Twitter Spaces like, hey, can you just throw together a POAP real quick? Like, no, I can't. I tried actually.
No,
that didn't work out.
POAP Viking did one yesterday, right? And
Awesome.
I think on the flip side though, like, yeah, when you're doing delivery and we're processing and doing the parsing and it takes 2 or 3 days. One thing I would ask people that are trying to get POAPs is like, please don't send 100 DMs badgering us as if we're bad, awful people. Like, we have good intentions and we're trying to navigate it. And then I ran a Twitter space today and everyone expects a POAP and I'm like, there's no POAP. Like, that's just, every activity doesn't warrant a POAP, right? And so I think it's important that like there's a lot of people on this call, just understand that it's like it isn't sustainable to make a POAP in a community for every single activity that you do when you're running fast. And I think that's something that you have to think about is like, okay, it really, I'm leaning more towards the side of these should be, much more special types of tokens of appreciation. If you think of it that way, that might not be aligned with everybody else's philosophy, but I think that's a good way to consider looking at it and finding that middle balance.
Yeah, I mean, POAPs, like if you go to POAP.xyz, right? I think our first tagline, I'm paraphrasing, is for the preservation of life's most important memories. And it's something where you have a POAP, you want that POAP to mean something and to remind you of something that you achieved, or a good time with friends, family, with your company. It's something special. While you all have POAPs that are for more infrequent things and for just spontaneous happenings, it's good to have that variation between POAPs that are more more exclusive and reserved, and just that like kind of diversity between frequent POAPs and ones that are for our best memories. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, then it kind of defeats the purpose of having a bookmark if you have a bookmark for everything.
Just on
That's
that note too,
a great
I've seen
analogy.
some communities do some interesting things with where they have something they do weekly, but they only give out a POAP, once a month or something like that. So you still have the engagement and you're encouraging it, but it's not something that's being given out every day or every week. It might be just once a month or for a cumulative activity. So if you're doing Twitter Spaces, for example, Tap, I don't know if there's some way to like then say, okay, for every, I don't know, 5 that you're here with us, we'll give you a POAP or something along those lines. It doesn't have to be that specific, but just something that's more cumulative might make it a little bit more special and relieve some of that fatigue as well.
I love what Frankie said about POAPs are bookmarks, and if you bookmark every page, then your bookmarks are really useless. There's a lot of value to that. I once asked Patricio what he thought about like making a what would be a meta POAP, where you would maybe take 10 community call POAPs and essentially burn them in exchange for I attended 10 community calls. He didn't love that idea, but I wonder if as POAP develops, if there's going to be a way to um, sort of highlight the POAPs that are really the most valuable bookmarks, and sort of keep
Yeah,
the other ones,
on that note, like underlying POAPs can sort of mean like a higher level of like sort of like a higher level community involvement or something like that. That's something we're thinking about with Git POAP too. Is so you made a contribution or maybe 5 contributions for the last 3 years. Maybe that can roll up until like you're an official, like a core contributor to a project or something like that.
Yeah,
The
I
other
really
part
think
too, I'm just thinking if you're as you're talking about like burning POAPs and doing all that, or just like instead of burning it, having it like a parent-children type thing, where it's like those
yeah,
ones
I
get
was going to
like
say that
yeah, sweet. I'll let
they
you
don't
carry
have
on.
to be burned. They can just as in a POAP vending machine where you insert 5 tokens to prove that you have accomplished something and then receive the meta POAP. It just seems interesting for the future.
Yeah, interesting. I like this. I'm interested in it. I'd like to. I'm gonna think about this some more. This is cool.
DeFi dude, when do you want to talk about your drops, or are you ready? Or we could do another. I'm interested in the next
Hey.
Slido question too, but I just want to feel the stage out.
Yeah, either or. I'm cool with whatever. I do want to just say one real quick thing about the meta POAP. So, I like the idea, but I do think like couldn't there be some kind of maybe issue? I guess like when things like count how many POAPs I guess you have. Like I don't remember exactly what in the past, but I've seen things where like the more POAPs you have, the better. So if you burn POAPs to get a meta POAP, it would kind of reduce how many you have by 10, increase by 1. So I think that I don't know that could cause some issues at some point, maybe.
Yeah, I think my
Interesting.
fallacy was to imagine burning them.
Sounds like POAPonomics.
Getting into it, yeah.
I like that. POAPonomics.
I want to hit this next Slido question because I do feel like it's valuable from the big picture. Are there any plans to allow the creation of a POAP wallet from within the mobile app? And I would say the answer there is probably not. But the reason for the answer is really the valuable thing. POAP is a Lego. It is a DeFi Lego, or not a DeFi Lego. It's an Ethereum Lego, like a lot of the other Legos that we have, and it fits together with other things to do neat things. And so the mission of POAP is to focus really squarely on these bookmarks. And POAP provides, API access to other tools, to other Legos to connect with it. But they wouldn't. It wouldn't be within their scope to build out the entire ecosystem, only to focus on creating these bookmarks. So the real answer to that question is POAP wouldn't develop a exchange wallet, but they would look for other tools like MetaMask, like um, Etherscan to really integrate POAP into their Lego to kind of snap these things together and build cooler things together. That's important to share and remember because it's easy to want POAP to be more than it is, but it's really important that each Lego is distinct.
Just touching on wallet stuff with POAPs, as like things look to potentially go cross-chain or multi-chain or omni-chain. With kind of a shameless plug here, but like with like layer 0, that's kind of our goal too, would be to be able to create like interoperability between chains and things like this for POAPs. For NFTs, and as POAPs are being NFTs, I could definitely see a way for like, connecting all of those things together. And I think that could be extremely powerful, especially with different communities on different chains, and being able to like issue wherever they want. So that's kind of like a thought I've been thinking about too lately.
That's a really exciting future. That makes me think of the people who want to. I recognize that POAPs are sellable, and a lot of people are frustrated right now that they cannot transfer POAPs to L1 to sell them on OpenSea. But to me, it makes better sense that the real solution is for Tangle. I sort of went on a tangent. Oh, a Tangle tangent of what you were talking about. But it makes better sense for those layer 2 exchanges to integrate POAP exchanges rather than all of this expensive gas of moving POAPs to layer 1 to sell them. Like we have kind of a push from the entire network to get away from L1 and do business on L2. And so it makes sense to find a way to sell POAPs on L2. Not that I encourage it, not that I think it's like best practice, but it's something that is possible. And if it's possible, then there's no way to stop it.
Well, and it's not even just the selling and the transferring, but it's the fact of like minting too, right? What is it? We can mint on L2 is really cheap, but like to mint POAP, like as their NFTs, if we're minting that on mainnet, or let's say another, like I don't even know what it looks like to mint on something like Arbitrum or Optimism. Those are probably a little more expensive as compared to minting like XDAI, or if we were to look at going to Polygon or Factom or whatever, right? Or getting to a roll up at some point. But yeah, to have to obviously even just the pure idea of minting on mainnet is just like not going to work. So clearly, things like this that are of massive volume, that are being pushed out to be community drivers, it needs to be on L2. And as we look at different communities too, right? Like some people may say, hey, you know what? If you're in the Avalanche community and you want to be using POAPs, you're like, hey, I wish we could be minting on Avalanche, because we want to keep everything within our ecosystem. And that's perfect.
That's
right?
a good thought. Yeah.
But then how do we want to be able to create something where you don't need to be switching between wallets to see, where, I've got, POAPs on X, or no, I should say, start saying Gnosis now. We've got POAPs on Gnosis, we have things on Polygon, we have things on Avalanche. Well, we want to be able to keep that and lump that all together so that users don't need to be worried about like switching between to see everything they have. And, like I say, that's a future that I'm interested in, where it doesn't matter where you are. It won't matter. You won't need to know, or you won't need to care. Most people are like going to care less about which chain they're on. It's just they're going to be on either the one that was the most efficient at that time, or the one that's most efficient, for the best place for it. Right.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I agree that one of the layers of abstraction that needs to be developed is not really knowing or caring what chain you're dealing with, just knowing what your assets are and what you want to do with them.
Absolutely. And if anybody's interested in looking into that, obviously here at Layer 0, that's stuff that we're looking to build, and if people are building on top of it. And I've chatted with Patricio before, but it takes a community to look at these things too, right? It's not just specific individuals. So community efforts.
Right. DeFi dude, do you want to kick off what you got to share?
Hey, sure. I do have a few this week, but I know we are getting towards the end, so I'll make it relatively quick here. So, yeah, just every week, usually spotlight a few POAP drops that I thought was pretty cool. And this week, to start off, we have the World of Woman NFTs slash Christie's. Basically, here I'll send a picture. Can't really screen share, unfortunately. Um, but yeah, they it's an NFT project, and I guess they were doing some kind of Christie's auction where they're going to auction off one of the NFTs. Well, all the World of Women NFT members got to vote which NFT is going to be auctioned off at Christie's, and anyone that contributed to the vote or voted on which one, they got this POAP. Thought that was kind of cool. I mean, they get to vote, and then they get the fancy little POAP showing that they help decide which one should be auctioned off to the
Hey,
world.
on the design side of this, I think it's cool because they took 4 different NFTs and they kind of rotated through them animation wise. So just talking about the design side of it, right? Like taking 4 images and even putting them in Canva and just playing them out as a visual, GIF, and then change it over to a PNG is a really simple, easy way to create something that looks really cool out of other artwork. So just want to highlight that out of that like design element that can be a cool technique to use.
Yeah, it's you can't see it in the picture I sent obviously, but it does like cycle through different NFTs. I can send the gallery event. I think like last week too. It's like I featured all animated POAPs, and it's like I can't really share, show the animation. So, yeah, that kind of stunk. But anyway, we'll wrap things up pretty quick. But I do have some Denver ones here. I see a ton of Denver POAPs, getting generated. Either I met this person at Denver or like certain projects. One is our very own Git POAP, got that one, Git POAP at Denver. So if any of you are going to EthDenver, going to be loads of POAPs. Like I was looking through this list, probably like at least 100. I wouldn't be surprised, if you can walk away with 100 POAPs. Um, Another one I thought was kind of cool is UMA Protocol at EthDenver. I'm just going to link the gallery on this one. I thought this drop was really cool just because of the animation, the looks of it. And I can't really show that by right click, uh, copy and pasting it. So yeah, I'll send the link there for that one. And what I also thought was kind of cool is like they're also doing one for their team members. So not only can you get one for, I guess, going to their booth, maybe if they're a sponsor, but then every team member you can meet, you can also get a POAP. And we also see that with tons of other people, not just UMA team members. Got one for like this one. Even our beloved Colfax has his very own POAP. I saw came across. And I'm seeing a lot of these more. Maybe because it's Denver, so like maybe people are, I don't know, wanting to do it more, or maybe this is just catching on more and more of like, oh, you've met blank. But yeah, seeing a lot more of those, and I really love those as well. So that's all I got for this week.
If you guys have seen it, our my partner on the comms team here at POAP, Theo, released an article and tutorial on how to create You've Met Me POAPs. It's on our POAP Medium. You guys, I'll repost it in the community chat. Check it out if you're just getting started with best practices for those.
Hey, we might actually add some of these POAPs you're sharing to be able to mint a Cryptog. This is great, and I think this is an aspect of like what's great is POAPs permissionless, so you can say like if someone has this token, I'm gonna give their wallet something, which is a super fun technique to do airdrops and other stuff. I'm gonna get myself into trouble. But I love the examples you're sharing. It gives me lots of ideas.
So, as the POAP curation community call, we there were 2 big goals that we wanted to resolve over the next, I said 10 weeks, but we're getting there. The first goal was getting our timing right, and we did a lot of back and forth and kind of found a new time slot. I announced at the beginning of the call, but I want to make sure that everybody's aware that beginning next week, I don't have the date in front of me. We will be, let me get the date for you because I don't want to do it wrong. The next call will actually be Wednesday, February 16th at 7 p.m. Eastern. That is probably going to be our long-term time slot. So we'll be meeting every Wednesday at 7 p.m. in the same place. That was one of the big things we knew that we would need to work on from the beginning. And the second thing that we'll work on is this really frustrating disjoint with not being able to show screen share. Screen share is really valuable for POAP because it's primarily visual. And so I appreciate DeFi Dude dropping those images in the chat, but it really, if anybody has great ideas, please do share them in the chat or actually maybe even share them in the Slido, and we'll work on ways to get better screen sharing. I do like the Discord stages. The next alternative would be something like Twitter Spaces, but neither of those really has the screen share. We might even move to Zoom, like we do a lot of other calls, but we'll just have to figure that out. Zoom doesn't give a great way to, because we are POAP and because we need to distribute POAP, Zoom doesn't give a great way to distribute those carefully. So, yeah. Anybody else have anything they want to bring up?
I wanted to share something real quick that I came across this week. There's a cool new website that I've been playing around with. I spent a bunch of my mornings sort of just clicking around and playing around. It's called POAP.in. POAP.in. I'm going to put a link in the community call right now. When I read in my mind, I read it as POAPin. I don't know if that is the intended name or not, but it's a cool way to explore POAP collections and sort of click through and see who's holding POAPs and things. If you go to that website, you go to the bottom right to watch list and you type in an address. You can sort of see POAP collections, click on POAPs, and see a bunch of information about them. So I definitely recommend checking it out. Super cool to see what the POAPin team is building.
Cool, yeah, that's a great one. There was another link. POAPin was neat. There was another one too. Does anybody? I don't remember off the top of my head what we were chatting about before.
Hey,
but,
so yeah, so sorry, that was me. And I'm trying to. I had to find the link. Sorry, I was digging, but there is, and I told them to join the call. I'm not sure if they're here, but I think it's Snowdot is the user name, and I'm gonna. They created they work on GitHub. I'm sorry, Gitcoin. One of the build brigades. I wish I was saying this all properly, but their GitHub, I just posted. You click on it, and it's a design tool to create a POAP. And I kind of jokingly said, like, yeah, we actually created the base to this, which we did, except like it's not to this level. Like, I'm so excited when someone pushes something and it's like what you're thinking about, but you weren't capable, you didn't do it yet. It's a bit more Gitcoin centric, so it's like mostly Gitcoin iconography and I think logos, but it does it's a great example of like a template where people then can create their own POAPs pretty simply and easily without having design skills. So I just dropped that the link to that people should
That's awesome.
check out.
Gitcoin has had their own internal system. I want to say it's called something like Kudos. So it would be neat, when you go to Gitcoin stuff, instead of getting a POAP, you get, what's it called? Someone will remember it.
I think it is called Kudos.
Okay, so
Yeah,
you
I
get a
think you're right.
Kudos instead of a POAP. So it would be neat to see more alignment there because as I was talking about Legos, like POAP is the proof of, I don't want to call it attendance because we don't call it that anymore, but POAP is that proof of participation kind of POAP. Can't say that kind of token, and that's what they specialize in. While Gitcoin focuses on an entirely different thing, And so rather than creating their own Legos, it makes more sense for them to use existing Legos that are specifically developed. Yeah, but I look forward to checking that out.
Yeah, I mean, they use a lot of POAPs. That's where it stemmed from, was like, hey, we need a tool that can allow us to create POAPs really quickly. And then, so this is a little bit more geared towards Gitcoin specifically, but it's available to anyone. And if you change the color palettes of like some of the things, then you can make it a little bit more custom to yours. The piece I think additional that like I had vision around is like you could insert GIFs or images into that, so you could incorporate your own artwork. So it seems like, you know, maybe just some developers could make some additional contributions to help get that tool there,
We
which
have
would be
Snowdot
awesome.
here.
Oh, Snowdot's
Snowdot.
up. What's up, Snowdot?
Hey, happy to be here.
Hey, great work. This tool is super fun.
Thanks. I'm really happy to hear that you like it. Well, the tool was born out of a need because I'm part of Gitcoin Builder Band, which is a group of developers where we are trying to build Web3, the decentralized Web3. And we use POAPs for our weekly meetings. So it kind of put a lot of pressure, you know, on building a design each week. So we since we are developers, we thought why not build our own. This was the initial version, like build our own tool that can randomly generate these POAPs. So we had the first draft, let's say version 1, and we do want to automate things like take care of everything, creating an event, minting, and distribution. We're a group of 2 people. I'm the front-end developer. I also work with, of course, a back-end developer, and we are planning to automate everything. And we were thinking of like implementing. How should I put it? Like, since we're organizing on platforms such as Google Meets or Zoom, implement a way that we can record the attendant participants and automatically pull the emails of those people attending and distribute them. We are in talks with the POAP team right now, and we are pushing a whitelist for for it to make it happen. But yeah, that's the main idea of how this project was built. Then Gitcoin family needed this tool to quickly generate POAPs since they have a lot of work streams, and we came up with this one that you've already posted.
So I would love maybe to have you on a call in the next couple of weeks to go over that, like to just demonstrate the tool for us. Would you be interested in that?
Yeah, definitely.
Great. And so our hang up now is that we're still stuck without screen sharing, but I'm sure we can figure something out.
Yeah, I would love to participate.
Great. Thank you for joining us. And so I'm going to wrap up now. I have 2 things as I wrap up. The first thing is just my third reminder. Next week's call will be Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. It will be a light call because nearly everyone I know will be at EthDenver. So there likely won't even be a POAP for next week's call. So while we do welcome,
Oh, that's
I would love for
a
everyone to come.
crime, Superphiz.
Hey, you know what? People are busy. The truth is, so all of our tasks are delegated, and I don't know how to do all of the tasks to make it work. And I'm afraid, yeah. Anyway,
Good luck.
it's how we'll know who the really committed people are. How's that?
It's good. I love it. I love you moving forward. Maybe I'll make a POAP and then we'll teach you how to use Djemba.
Maybe.
Well,
And so
hold
in
on.
closing,
Hold on, Superphiz.
Okay.
Especially thinking about creating POAPs, I do want to take one moment just to thank the person that does create the assets for our show, being Diablo Verde. They have not only helped us, but they've especially helped me on my end. Not only do they help us make the POAP every single week, but they've also helped me create a nice visual asset collection that I can use for recording these shows. And just special shout out to them for assisting us this whole time.
Yes. Thanks, Mr. Mojo, for shouting out Diablo Verde. I know that Diablo is friends with Tap and has been really responsive to our needs, and so it is really taking our design to the next level. So thanks, Diablo Verde, for your support. With that, we can end the recording. That's what Mr. Mojo wanted me to say. He wanted me to specifically say that we are ending it.
Not exactly. I was more so like, hey everybody, thanks for coming to the recorded show today. If you want to stick around and still talk to us, come up on stage, anything that you want to ask us or talk to us about, some of us will stay around and we'll bring you up. Other than that, if you want your POAP, you can go into the Claim POAP channel. And my recommendation my recommendation is always to go ahead and direct message the DGen bot GM. That way, when you claim your POAP, it will go to your DM instead of popping up in the chat.